We are joined by Seattle U head coach Suzy Barcomb. Coach, can you start out just by telling us a little bit about your team and expectations for the season?
I think as the rookie coach coming into this conference, it would be really easy to set too high of expectations. I'm a process person, so what we want to do is making sure that we're getting a little bit better each and every single day we step on the floor. It's been a growing 5 months for us of the new student athletes getting used to me and me getting used to them. And I'm trying to discover what best will, how we can execute out on the floor with what we have. We also added quite a few new individuals, so we're also trying to acclimate them into my system and teach my system to all the returning athletes as well.
You enter your first season at Seattle U after successfully turning around programs at Division II, Cal State, East Bay, and Division III, University of Puget Sound. How does that experience help you transition into your first Division I head coaching job?
To me, it's still basketball. So I'm a builder. I like the challenges of that. I don't shy away from those types of challenges. It's really easy for me to know what I have to do. I think, you can compare Division III, Division II, Division I, but the process remains the same. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did at those levels. My expectations of how the student athletes might perform should be elevated a little bit, but everything else stays the same. I have to be as consistent as possible in my teaching and what we want so that they get it, and they get it at a faster level, hopefully at the Division I level.
What have you learned about your team in the last few months since starting at Seattle U?
A lot. I think for me it is that comfort level that they know I'm going to be here every single day. I think any time you're dealing with change, change is really difficult to accept, and with change, a new level of trust. So I think that they have finally learned to trust me. I think that they are really excited about the new things that we're going to implement, both offensively and defensively. I also have learned that they're not going to shy away from the challenge. They're in it with me, which as the coaching staff, we feel really good about that. They will buy in with whatever we're trying to have them accomplish.
A decade ago, you had a pretty good rivalry going at Puget Sound with George Fox University down in Oregon, who was coached by current Oregon State head coach Scott Roarke. Is there anything you can learn from what he's done at Oregon State in turning that program from a Pac-12 doormat to national power in such a short time?
Well, I think if Scott was sitting up here, he would also tell you he just trusted his process. I think that that's what he did. He did the exact same thing. How he implemented all of his success at George Fox, he did the exact same thing at Oregon State. And I texted him a couple of times during his last run, and I said, I see the exact same plays that you're running, and I can just see BB setting the screen for his big and doing that. And he also stayed true to who he was. He didn't change who he was and what he was about, and I thought that was probably really key in getting things going.
Kaylee Best is your top returning scorer. Mm-hmm. Can you just talk about what you expect from her?
It's all about leadership. I think that we have actually quite a very large senior class, and I've asked each and every senior to make sure that they're leading by example, they're leading on the floor, off the floor, and what we're trying to accomplish. I also think that Kaylee has to learn to play within our system, and if she will, she'll be more successful than she has in the past. But she's also been a vocal leader, and I also think what happens is that the younger team players, when they see a veteran buying in at that level, that it's much easier for them to buy into that level as well.
We've had, you mentioned it earlier, and a lot of coaches have mentioned being true to yourself as a coach. What qualities, what things do you want to do to make sure that you remain true to yourself in this coaching role?
I have to keep my sense of humor. Chris will tell you I'm incredibly funny, and I want to make sure that stays on the floor. I know we're going to have failures, but I know we're going to have successes as well. And you have to stay I have to stay even. My highs can't be too high, my lows can't be too low. I just have to come in every single day and make sure that I'm doing my best. And that will teach them not to have their highs too high or lows too low, and that we're gonna play at the same level every single day we step on the floor.
Last season saw some big changes in the women's basketball game, most notably 2 20-minute halves to 4 10-minute quarters, among some other rules changes. How do you think the change went overall, and how did that change your coaching philosophy?
I thought the changes were really interesting. It took me a little bit to adjust, and I really thought it took the players time to adjust, because it seemed like when you played 2 20s, you knew when you had a comfortable lead. And I felt like when you played 4 10s, you never felt comfortable with your lead because there was still another 10 minutes to go. So that took me a bit of time. It took me a bit of time to understand the subbing and the rotation that I needed to have. What I struggled most with was the fouling situation, and that you're starting over every single time. I thought that took a little bit of the defense away, or the 1-and-1, or the fouling strategically. I thought some of that was hindered by the way they did the free throws. I'm okay with the last rule change about advancing the ball. I like to think that they thought it added excitement. I think it was interesting because you now didn't have to go against full court defense. You got to have it on your side of the floor. So I would say 60-40 in favor of advancing the women's game.
Are there any newcomers to your program that you expect to come in and make an immediate impact?
I think everybody will make an impact. When you have a change and you have a coaching change, you expect everybody to have an impact. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a newcomer for you. And they're student athletes that we recruited as a coaching staff. So I'm anxious to have them on the floor. And again, they're learning an entirely new system, but also the fact that they're trying to make sure that they're doing everything the way we want it, because we're building a new culture as well.
The WAC is a pretty geographically large conference. How do you prepare yourself, your staff, your team for the travel demands that are going to come during both the non-conference and conference season?
It's really demanding. I think that there's one stretch where I feel like the coaches don't have a day off for 28 days with the schedule we inherited. That's just the non-conference schedule. Coming from the CC2A, we traveled from one end of California to the other end of California, with one of the road trips being a Humboldt on a Thursday and a Cal Poly on a Saturday. So I'm somewhat used to that. You just have to take it one game at a time. You really do. You have to prep your student athletes. You have to make sure you're fueling your body. You have good scouting reports, and the coaching staff will come up with the best game plan we possibly can in order to create as much success as we can.
Okay, thank you for joining us.
Oh, I appreciate your time.